Welcome back to the Figure Annuity Sales podcast. It's Caleb North here, and it's another week of me rocking solo. And at this point, you guys kind of know why. Chad's navigating some challenging things with his house project, and so some of these episodes here I'm going to be recording solo. I've done some, and this morning I was actually on my typical morning walk. I like to take a walk every morning, and I was thinking through, what am I going to talk about on the podcast today? And I found it pretty interesting because I really couldn't think of anything annuity specific related that I wanted to talk about. But the thing that kept coming to mind, the thing that was just weighing on my heart and on my mind, it has direct impact to the annuity production that you have and the way that we do business as a training organization, an FMO. And so I kind of want to camp out in that idea for a little while. And I'm not sure if this is going to be a 10-minute episode, if it's going to be a 30-minute episode. I'm just going to kind of talk through some of the ideas that were stirring in my mind. But it's all related to the way that you do what you do. And I hope that this doesn't sound like a redundant thing or one of those kind of weird trying to hype you up type things. That's not my goal. My goal really is to kind of bring about a focus for not just you, but also for me on the way that we do the things that we do. And I think that it can be really, really easy for us to get caught up in what we're doing. And maybe even why we're doing it, right? And we've talked a lot about the why. We talk a lot about the fact that you need a why. And the why is what keeps you moving forward when things get challenging. If you don't have a solid and a rooted why, then when what you're doing gets difficult, it makes it more difficult to keep moving forward. So the why is really paramount to the what and the how. But I do think that there is an incredible value on the way you choose to do what you do. And when I was a boy, I remember I used to get in trouble more in the conversations that I would have with my parents after I got in trouble. So I would do something that I wasn't supposed to do, whatever, get in trouble for, doing something, saying something. And I always remember getting in more trouble after I was already in trouble. And my dad would say, Caleb, it's not so much what you say, it's how you say it. And so what was going on in that environment was I would do something, get in trouble for it, try and talk my way out of it, and I would have a pretty dishonorable attitude. And that attitude came through in the way I said what I said. And so my dad was trying to tell me at that time, Caleb, it's not so much what you're saying, it's how you're saying it. It's the way that you're saying it. It created a greater impact than even the words that were being said. And so I really think that the way we choose to do what we do is something that will have impact on the people that we're working with. And I'm going to bring some context to this in the annuity space specifically. But one other thing that I specifically remember a mentor telling me one time, he said, Caleb, you got two things you can control, your attitude and your effort. And it's true. You can control your attitude and you can control your effort. And those two things come together really to impact the way that we do what we do. And so I want us to be cognizant of the way that we choose to do the things that we're doing. And here's partially why. Partially, it's because it will create distinction. But the main thing is because that's just the right way to do it. We need to be conscientious of the way that we do it so that we actually do it the right way. When you think about it, and I was thinking about this morning, in the FMO, Retirement Realized Financial, which is really kind of my baby. That's where I spend the majority of my time each day is leading and kind of guiding and directing what we do in the FMO. And I love it. I love it to death. the things that we do in the FMO are not just all that different from what other FMOs do. You've got contracting, you've got help with leads and marketing, you've got, product selection and case design, you've got help with pending business, getting policies issued, making sure commissions are paid out, right? It's like you've got pretty normal workflows. And for you as an agent, what you're doing is not all that different from what other agents are doing. It's really not just massively different. You're doing a lot of the same things. You got leads, you call leads, you book appointments, you fact find, you show a product illustration, explain how it works, try and close the deal. So the what you're doing and the what I'm doing in our individual roles in this industry are not all that different from the what other people are doing. But the thing that will create distinction for you and for me in our roles is how we do those things. The honor that we have in the way that we do those things, the love that we have for the other person that is being impacted by what we are doing is part of how we do those things. And the how is what will create distinction. When you can choose to do what you do the right way and have immense honor for the other person that's being impacted by what you're doing, love for that person, care for that person, genuine concern for what you're doing for that person, it's going to come across different. It's not going to be perceived in the same way that they perceive other professionals in the industry, even if what you're doing and what those others are doing is pretty similar. The way you do what you do is the unique flavor that your uniqueness as a human brings to that thing. And I really don't want to get all, kooky and weird. It's just, this is something that was seriously on my mind and my heart. And truth be told, I haven't had just a ton of time today to try and process through what I'm trying to say with this. But I think really what it boils down to is for us all to think about our mind and our heart and the posture that we have in those two places toward the way we do what we do. And if we try and operate in a way that, we're just trying to go out and close sales, and we're trying to go out and, make some good commissions, and we're trying to make it as easy as we can, and we're trying to have as little time spent, I'm all for efficiency, right? But if we try to shortcut it, if we try to make it less than it should be, if we approach it as if it's a less impactful thing than what it is, we're going to treat the way we do what we do with very little respect. And guys, this comes all the way down to the excellence that we choose to have in minor communications. It's a silly example, but I do think it's something seriously worth considering. How excellent is the way that I communicate over the phone? How excellent is the way that I communicate over email? How excellent is my focus when I'm trying to come up with a plan for this individual? How excellent am I treating the fact-finding process for this person, right? How excellent am I doing all of these things that I'm doing? And if we can't honestly look at it and say, I am doing those things with the best attitude that I can have and with the utmost excellence that I can have, then we're probably not creating distinction for ourselves amongst the rest of the industry, because the way we're doing what we're doing is no different than what the way everybody else is doing what they're doing. And so I feel like this pretty much wraps up kind of the idea for today. And my goal is not to just, get on here and record, 10 minutes of me just randomly talking about something. And like I said, I hadn't really thought through what I'm trying to communicate. But I hope that there's something in that you can grab a hold of that goes to impact the way you do what you do. And so consider this a call, not just to you from me, but also to me from me. Consider this a call for all of us to increase the level of excellence that we have in the way we do what we do. And a call to stop being so caught up in what we do. I spent 3 hours calling leads. Awesome. How'd you do it? What was the way that you did it? I spent 3 hours working with this client that was difficult. Great. How'd you do it? What was the way that you did it? And if we can shift the focus off of what we're doing and onto how we're doing it, we're going to have far more greater impact, and we're going to create distinction for ourselves in an industry that often lacks distinction from one professional to another. And I use that term loosely. There was another thing I wanted to say here, and I cannot remember what it was, to be honest with you. So maybe it'll come up in another episode. It definitely had to do with with the way that you do what you do. But be encouraged and know that if you will take the time to do what you do the right way, you have a great attitude, operate with excellence, and you become almost captivated by operating with honor and genuine care, you're going to see a distinction created. It's going to impact your brand perception. Right? Think about this. What if we could create a brand around what we do that's predicated on quality, predicated on honor, predicated on excellence? If you can do that, I think in a large way, referrals almost take care of themselves. So there's so much more. There's so many layers deeper we can go with this, but I want to leave you with that today. Encourage you to think through the things that I've said here. Think through how do they apply to you and your business specifically, and what's the next layer deeper that you can take these concepts. It's that next layer that you can go in thinking through some of these things. Next week, I'm sure it'll be a little bit more normal of an episode. We'll see. Who knows? But I hope that this encourages you guys. I hope that this calls us all to a higher degree of excellence, a higher degree of focus on the way we do what we do. And remember the why. Remember why you're doing what you're doing. And in the doing, be really, really hung up on the way that you do it and make that way excellent. Appreciate you guys. Reach out to me if there's anything I can try and help you guys with. And we'll see you next week. Happy selling.